Hello YouTube, this is Dexter Nolan here with a brand new deck profile. Today I'll be bringing you my BA deck, which I'm going to be using next week at Regionals. I missed my last Regionals because I was head judging, so I unfortunately couldn't play. I'm hoping to get my invite this weekend for Regionals. I tested the last two locals. I undefeated with this build of Burning Abyss. I've made some changes to the side deck since the first event, and those changes were testing so great. So I'm going to go straight through the deck profile and see what you guys think. First off, we got 3 Scarm. I think Scarm is a mandatory 3 of course it's a BA monster, it's a good BA. I don't really need to explain why Scarm's here 3. Same with Sir at 2 and Graf at 1. I think these hits to the deck really hurt, but also opened up a lot of avenues for what you can do with this deck. Before, it was very flexible deck, but it kind of couldn't mesh well with other builds because Sir and Graf, when they floated into on-field monsters that would destroy themselves if you were to hybrid it with other builds. Now, I don't actually hybrid it with another build, but it does allow me to do things which I wouldn't otherwise be able to do if both are at 3. I still think the deck is so much slower, but there is positives to it as well. 2 Farfa. He's probably one of the best bad BA monsters. He's not even that bad, really. He's decent. I'm iffy. I was kind of thinking about putting him as the 3rd copy, but I think it's good in BA to have a lot of options with the fiends you run. So I ran 2 Farfa. He's good defense. He's a good BA monster. 1 Alec, who's kind of average, but you can send him with Griefing, or you can send him with Rhino Warrior, or whatever. If you get him in the grave, you can negate a Floodgate monster's effect if it's a Vanity's Fiend or whatever. It's pretty generally good as well. I mean, during your opponent's turn, if you know they're going to be, if they have a once per turn effect, you can Griefing something from their grave and send Alec to turn Griefing into a breakthrough skill. Obviously, it won't work on summon effects because it goes in a different chain, but it's good against like once per turn effects, like say, I can't think of one now, but if there's like an effect once per turn, you can add a monster to your hand or whatever. It works against that, so 1 Alec, 2 is too much. 1 Kagna, I was thinking about running a 2nd actually. He's really good, but I only run 1 Good and Evil and 2 Lake. No Traveler, because Traveler is really not very good unless you kind of like bricking. I think Traveler is a very average card. So yeah, Kagna is 1. It sounds Good and Evil. It's kind of like a good BA monster to get in your first turn, so if you can like if you get Sir and Kagna, you could special summon Sir, normal summon Kagna. The reason you do that, by the way, is so if they have max C, you don't get blown out. Like, you always special summon the first, so that if they have max C, you don't like go too deep into play. Whereas if you normal summoned one and then special summoned, then that you'd be under max C and you'd have 2 monsters you'd have to do something with, or else they'd punish you on your turn. So if you just special summon and bait out max C, it's so much better. That's kind of off my point, but Kagna is really good because you can normal summon it and get a Good and Evil in the grave. That kind of leaves you like 4 cards on your first turn, unless you mill with a Dante, Scarm or something. But it usually leaves you 4 cards in your first turn. But it puts you at a +2 the turn after. So while you end at 4 on your first turn, you have 2 strong floaters on the field, Sir under the Dante, and you have a draw and 2 cards the turn after. So it kind of it's more or less a +1 or 2, but it's really good, I think. 1 Barbar, he's mandatory, but he's not great, so you just run the 1. Rubik, mandatory but not great, which you just run the 1. Libic is not really mandatory and not really great, but you run the 1 in case of those situations. And that's it really for the BA named monsters. I'm not quite sure how many there is, but I run about 21, 22 monsters in total, which I'll go into next. 3 Warrior, which is super non-BA BA monster. It's quite excellent. Well, this card, I can't say enough good things about it. It's fantastic. If Graf and Sir were still at 3, this would be an amazing card that BA would be like tier 0. But it really does keep them relevant, I think. A great card. I love it. You need to play at least 2, but I reckon 3. Also, it's Earth, which makes sense kind of later. I know that really doesn't make sense, but I'll show you. 3 Backjack. I believe this is like I think there's a lot of different BA builds right now that you can play. And I think Backjack build is my favorite, and I think it's the best one. Backjack allows you to work on an axis with BA that you can't without it. It allows you to play big BA whilst also playing control BA and stun BA. When you play big BA, you have problems like not a lot of traps to defend your big boards that you put out. With Sir and Graf gone, or to 1 and 2 respectively, you've not really a lot of floating power in terms of defense, and oftentimes you can just get blown out by a Dweller and a lot of attacking, or a Dweller and a Raigeki, or a Dweller and anything, or however they dispose your board. If they start selling stuff away against Pendulum decks, you've no way to stop an onslaught that will come at you. That's why big BA is weak. And trap heavy BA is the opposite. It's bricky because you don't run a lot of monsters. You can't really make the Dantes. You can't get your engine going. This solves those problems by allowing you to play 20-20 kind of build. In my case, it's like 22, then 2 spells, then like 16 traps or whatever. I don't know I think it's about that. It allows you to do that very consistently. It allows you to stack your deck to get the traps you want whenever you want. It allows you to far lake in the battle phase while you have no traps. It allows you to work around Twin Twister. It allows you to really, really punish your opponent for playing into your Backjack. Backjack is a fantastic card. Can't say enough good things about it. You can send it with Warrior, you can send it with Grieving. This is not an inconsistent card. It really isn't. You do draw it the odd time, but when you do draw it, you run the Discard traps. You've so many ways and more to get it out of your hand, and more than that, you mill it so much more than you draw it. You draw once per turn. You mill 3 to 6 times per turn. In fact, I've milled 9 times per turn on occasion. So you really need this card if you're playing a good balanced BA build. There's other builds you can play. There's Gameciel kind of stun builds, and there's builds that just focus on making big Dantes and shit. There's even an Astral Force build for Infinity from whatever. But I think Backjack is an MVP, and I think without Backjack, BA would be a lot worse. One Crane, I'm sorry for rambling. One Crane, one Guide. Guides at 1 for the longest time now, for like 4 formats. Crane's okay. It can really help mid to late game. It can really when your Sir Dante loop is outed, it can bring back the Sir Dante loop, which is great. Fantastic, amazing card. You need this card in your deck. I wouldn't run 2 though. It's kind of meh mid game, early game. It's kind of okay mid game. It's great late game, but unlike Tour Guide, which is kind of almost amazing every turn, except maybe going second to back row, it's kind of not as good. But it is an Earth type, which I'll go into later, is a good thing. And Double Maxi, which are Earth also. I just run them as hand traps. They're good cards. I have nothing else really to say about them. 2 spells, just to Allure. Even though drawing is incremental in BA, it allows you to get rid of dead cards, which you can draw. Sometimes you want to banish a Backjack, sometimes you want to get rid of a Farfa that you don't need. Whatever, it allows you to draw 2, dig for traps, dig for better combo pieces. It's just too good. And Good and Evil's usually sent with Cagna. You do draw it sometimes, but I don't draw it often enough to warrant cutting it, even though it's really bad to draw. It's also sometimes, if you don't have a discard outlet anyways, good to set it and another trap card, preferably a chainable trap card, and hope they Twin Twister it, which happens often because people are running Twin Twister. Not sure why so many people are running Twin Twister in the main, but they are. So you can set this plus trap, and they go 2 for 2, but you get like a 1 card off it. This is a +2 in the grave, so it works out so that it's even, so you trade advantage and simplify the game state, which is good for this deck. Next I run 3 as far as I know, non-normal trap cards. Skill Drain I think is kind of mandatory, to be honest. It allows you to just kind of auto-win certain matchups, which is all it really needs to do. Now Warning, obviously, I don't own Strike. If I own Strike, I'd run 1 Warning, 1 Strike, or maybe 2 Strike. Probably 1 Warning, 1 Strike, but I don't own them, so if you're richer than me and have the money for a Strike, you should run 1 Warning, 1 Strike. in that place. Strike isn't a normal trap though. If it was a normal trap, I'd run 3. The reason is backjack can only be plus with normal traps. So for the normal trap lineup, we run 1 breakthrough skill. 2's too much. 1 torrential. You can only run 1, and it's kind of anyways. But it's just a good normal trap. That's my point. 1 bottomless, also meh, but it's a normal trap and it's kind of good against everything. Time space is great against a few decks, but it's not great against a lot of other decks. So I just run the 1 of its normal trap. Griefing 2 of. Firelake 2 of. Wing Blast 2 of. Raigeki Break 2 of. You just really need a good normal trap lineup. I decided to run 2s because it's the most consistent. You sometimes want to draw them, but you also want them for backjack. But you never want to draw multiples, but you want to resolve a couple in a game. So it's the balance between clog and consistency, I think. You want a bit of variance in the traps you can use, but you also want to use the good traps. There's no doubt about it that Phoenix Wing Blast is better than Time Space Trap Hole. Or sorry, not even Time Space Trap Hole, let's say Bottomless Trap Hole. In most situations, but you really don't want too much of one card ever. Firelake is probably the one trap that if I was to cut, I'd cut. Or I'd run a Karma Cut instead of a Raigeki Break, or maybe a Phoenix Wing Blast. The discard traps are very meh in current BA because they were best when you'd Graph and Sur and you could resolve their effects on your opponent's turn to really force your opponent to get out things. It's quite good. So yeah, that's the 40 card main deck. I wouldn't run Upstarts because single draws are incremental in BA. Eldur is the exception because I think it can get rid of the dead cards to +1. No, 2 for 2, but it gets rid of the dead cards and allows you to get some traps. In an ideal situation, it would get you BA plus a trap. Next up, we have the. I'm going to do the side deck first, and then I'll go into the extra. So for the side, I run 2 Veilers if I'm on second, and my sweet tech, I run 2 Shadow Beast and 1 Shadow Dragon. This is a Shadow engine for going against any deck that isn't Cosmo, which don't use Extract. It's you might say it's inconsistent, you might say it's not great, or you might say whatever, Window's not amazing anymore. That's the reason I run Earths, by the way, for Shek. But this can win. It's a +2 no matter what way you look at it. If you resolve this against a face-up... by the way, they won't expect it either. You're playing BA. They won't expect you to decide on Shadows. If you can resolve this against a mirror match, or against Shadows, or against Satellar Knights, or whatever deck you're resolving it against, it's a +2. You draw from Beast, which I usually send, or if there's I run this, the third one on this, because it gives you the option to pop a spell trap, so you +1 off that, and then you send either a Scarm to get a Search, a Backjack if you want, or a Fiendish Rhino Warrior if you want. So what I'd usually do would be, if I want to make check, I send a Beast to get a draw, and a Fiendish Rhino Warrior. Fiendish Rhino Warrior either sends a Scarm or a Backjack to get a trap, so you +1 no matter what. Or if you want to make a window, you can just send the Backjack or Scarm straight with the Beast. So you +2 there. You replace the Shadow Fusion with a floating Floodgate or a floating 3k defense, 2600 attack boss monster. You will never use the effect of Shek. You'll never really care about it, but it has a lot of attack, so it's kind of better in Winda in that aspect, and it floats. So does Winda. Winda's a floodgate. Winda cannot be destroyed. Winda can win games alone, even in this format. It can completely kill the BA mirror match, and it can really kill Satellar Knights too. It's too good of a card not really consider it for this side deck. I just can't say enough good things about this engine. It's possibly the best decision I've made with this deck. It's never been bad, it's never been cloggy. You just need to resolve the one fusion and you win. I've been thinking about cutting an Alec or a Libic or something from the main deck and running a Curry Bandit to help dig in game 2, but I think the build is fine. I've never had trouble getting any of the 3 copies of Shadow Fusion in my side deck, and I've never had problems running out of Shadow monsters, because as I said, you need to resolve one Shadow Fusion to win the game. So yeah, Just my opinion on that. And 1 Regeki and 2 Twin. I think that stuff is self-explanatory. The last, I have 3 Iron Wall. It's great against Cosmo. It's kind of the only thing I have against Cosmo in the side deck as well, because, well, it's a match that I either win or lose. If my F0 player play fails, I've kind of auto lost anyways. I don't want to use too much cards in the side deck on a match that I'll probably lose if I don't draw the right cards anyways. If my F0 player works, I win the match, so there's no point in putting in too many other cards. So 3 Iron Wall I think is a fair thing. It's good against a lot of other decks. It's good against Heroes on occasion. It's good against Infernoids. So is this actually. It's just a generally pretty okay side card. So I run the 3 copies. And last but not least, 1 Grand Torn. It's good against Phantom. It's good against quite a lot of decks actually. Exceed decks. It's great against Infernoids. I just run the 2nd copy in the side. And last but not least, for my extra, I run 3 Dante. Dantezio, as I like to call him. He's great. 2 Downard. Sorry, where's the second? Oh, there. Sorry. 2 Downard. 1 F0, mandatory. Levier, great with Backjack. Got a lot of synergy with Backjack. 1 Mesrhythm. 1 Nightmare Shark. 1 Engineer, 1 Fortune Tune, 1 Alucard, and that's really it. There's a and an Acid Golem. There's a card called Grand Pulse, I think, Grand Pulse, Granny Pulse, something like that. It destroys spell traps, and then there's another one called Break Sword, which is like a rank 3 Diamond Hour, and when I get those, which I should be getting before the regionals, I'll probably just cut 2 cards here. I couldn't tell you which ones I'd cut, maybe Fortune Tune and Alucard, or Fortune Tune and Nightmare Shark, or Golem, or whatever. It really doesn't matter. As much as I'd almost say that these are all mandatory cards here, they're not. In fact, the only one that I really make often is Mesrhythm. I would say Lavera is mandatory in this build of the deck with Blackjack, but the only Mesrhythm, and that's only to like out awkward monsters. I use it against desk bots actually at my last locals. They made like some crazy play, so they had lots of attack, so I just like tried to push over them with big monsters, and it got me game. But yeah, for the last 3 spots, I just run 1 Shack, 1 Winda. You don't need. Sorry, my camera was gone up. Apologies. 1 Shack, 1 Winda is the best ratio, I think, because you never really need the 2nd Winda. If you want to resolve a 2nd Shadow Fusion, it doesn't matter what you summon, because if you resolve 2 Shadow Fusions, you definitely won the game. If you resolve the first, you've won the game. But if for some reason that they have an out to it, or they book them in their extra monster and you can't resolve it, if you need to well, then you wouldn't use your extra card. Sorry, that doesn't make any sense, but you get my point. It's fine. There's never been a situation on Earth where after resolving 2 Shadow Fusions in this build of a deck where it's straight pluses, it's not even like Shadows where it's like the win condition of the deck. It's just like extra win condition in this deck. It's kind of like impossible to lose after that. If you do lose after that, you seriously bad resource management. And 1 Virgil, because you need 1 Virgil and 2 is stupid. So yeah, that's pretty much my deck. Sorry for rambling on a lot there, but yeah, that's in my opinion the best BA build possible, except for maybe 1 Strike in there, which I'm too poor to afford. Sorry, don't tell anyone. Yeah, so let me know what you think. Let me know if I've inspired your faith in BA again, if you think it's a great deck. I personally think it's not the best deck, but one of the best decks. It's severely underrated. I think it's better than Mermails. I think it's better than Monarchs by miles. I think it's better than Pendulum Magicians by miles. I think the only deck it's probably weaker than is Draco Pals and Cosmo. I don't think there's anything else in the meta that's more consistent, more powerful, and generally as good a deck as it. So yeah, let me know what you think. Do you think I'm crazy? And comment below. Thank you very much for watching. This is Dexternal out.